All right, welcome to this next video. So if you're watching this, we are now assuming that you have built your 2019 server. All right, you've gone and deployed it, whether that be in a physical or in a virtual environment. Of course, in our case, we're doing this in a virtual environment. We're doing this within VMware. You then gone and set up your domain controller, actually built the domain controller, promoted it as a domain controller, and you've got your first domain built. Now, in our case right here, we are logged into our Windows server. This is our 2019 Windows server. We're doing this in our virtual environment. And the first thing that you may notice is that when you do install the AD tools or the domain controller role, you get a number of AD tools configured or set up for you by default. These are the ones that you will see. You can access these by going into the Start menu, Windows Administrative Tools, and there they are right there. You can also go into Server Manager right here and actually check out some of the tools under here. All right. So we'll do it from here just because it's Server Manager is just a nice starting place for most of this. And right here, you've got a few things. You've got the Administrative Center. So let's just go ahead and open this up and we'll sort of show you what this is. This is relatively new. Earlier versions of Windows Server did not include the Administrative Center, but it can be quite nice to access some stuff. But you don't have to go into here. I personally don't go into here too much, but you can see some information around your domain, and it's just sort of laid out a little bit differently to say your standard AD tools, which we're going to cover in a second. But you do have access to some other stuff in here if you so choose to. But this, you can sort of spend a whole series just talking about the Administrative Center, but we're not going to be focusing it on this video. So let's just close out of this. Then you've got your domains and trusts. If we open this up, now this is an area where you can actually manage multiple domains. All right, so if you've got multiple domains, you go into here and you manage it all in here. Now, in our case, we've just got the one domain. We've gone and set up one single domain under one forest. So in here is just our single domain being home demo, and that is really it. Of course, if you have multiple domains, you'll have multiple domains listed under here. Now, the other thing, of course, that you can do from within here is go and create domain trusts. Now, we're going to talk about that just a little bit, but essentially a domain trust is you've got two domains. Let's say this is in the scenario where you've got another organization, for example. You're in a company and that company buys another company, for example, or you create a new company within the company, which means you need to create a new domain, for example. You can create a trust between those two domains. So let's say you're getting another company and you need to now merge your operations so that your IT team, your staff members can actually share resources, share security groups and all this other stuff between these two domains. You can create a trust between these two domains, get them to talk to each other, and then you can share a lot of the stuff between those two. Again, this is more of an advanced feature in Active Directory. We're not going to be focusing on trusts specifically in this series, but it's something good for you to know if you so choose to. Let's just go back in here. I've realized that I've just got something stuck. Don't know why. Let's just close out. Back into tools, you've got the module for PowerShell. PowerShell, of course, being a command line, and you can actually execute commands in AD directly on PowerShell. So this is absolutely brilliant. And some stuff you can't do with ease through the GUI, through the graphical user interface. So sometimes you do have to go into PowerShell and do some commands into PowerShell to be able to bring up and execute some of the commands that you so need to. Something that I use PowerShell all the time for is for bulk entries. So let's say I need to go and create a whole bunch of new accounts, new user accounts, new computers, new servers, or I need to create a report. I need to go and give me all the AD accounts that are due to expire in the next 30 days. Some stuff like that, you can't really do that very easily directly in the AD tools under here. All right. So using the PowerShell command line, you can automate a lot of this stuff. You can and bring stuff back very, very easily. Now, as well as the previous thing that we were just talking about, the actual domains and trusts. We're not going to be covering too much about PowerShell. PowerShell is something for people who want to delve in a lot deeper and a lot more advanced in Active Directory. So I would recommend that once you've finished this course and you understand Active Directory and understand how to use it and how to do everything that you need to do within it, you then go and learn PowerShell, or at least learn some commands. What I find helpful, I'm not a PowerShell expert, but I know enough to be able to get by. It's its own language in a way, and I've just got a big notepad file with a whole bunch of PowerShell commands that I use quite frequently to make my life easy. So I can always reference that, copy paste commands straight into PowerShell, and then it just makes my life very, very easy, which is great. You've then got your sites and services. This is if you have multiple sites, you have multiple domain controllers, and you can add your IP addresses of those domain controllers and that sort of stuff. But again, that is a lot more advanced, and that's when you're talking about multiple domain controllers managing a fleet, potentially across different domains, different subnets, different other offices, international, domestic, etc. And then of course your users and computers, which is where we're going to be spending most of the time in this session anyway, in these tutorials. Over the next few tutorials, we're going to be focusing on users and computers. So let's just go ahead and open this up. We're going to go into a lot more detail, specific detail around how to do specific things in here in future videos. But what you'll notice is that straight out of the box, once you've gone and you've created your homedemo.com, right up here, it's gone and created a number of these folders, or what you would call now an OU, an organizational unit. So this is essentially what's called a OU. It's a folder really within AD, and each of these have got some relevant information within them. You've got some built-in security groups. Okay, so these are just out of the box security groups that have been created. You can see a little bit of information around what this security group actually does, but at the moment it doesn't do anything because nothing is using these security groups. So essentially a security group will be populated. So if we just double click on, let's say, print operators, if we open this up, these are some properties of the print operators security group. Okay, so you just double click on it and then you open this up right here, and you'll see from the description, it says members can administrate printers installed on domain controllers. Now, if I go into members, these are essentially the members of this security group. At the moment, there's nobody in here. All right. So what would happen is in a future video, when we're going to show you how to go and create a user. Of course, the whole point of Active Directory is that you've gone and you've built it, you've set it up, and now you want to add users into Active Directory so that those users can then go and log in to their computer to get access to the network and get access to anything else that is being managed on the network. Those users can be then added into security groups to allow those users to have particular security level permissions, or have specific functionality that they can perform against certain things. So at the moment, this is empty. So let's give you a scenario. Let's say you've got a fleet of printers. All right. So this is printers that you've got out on your network. You've got printer A, printer B, printer C. And what you can do is you can actually go to those printers. Let's say they're those smart printers, right? And you can create, rather than people going in and just printing straight to those printers, you can create perhaps logins to those printers, where you can go to the printer, they can swipe their card, for example, and then they automatically log in and they can print their own documents. Well, rather than configuring each user one by one on the printer, let's say you've got John Smith, you've got Mary Anderson, they've just started in the organization, you need to now go to that printer and then you add them to that printer so that they can actually go and print. That is annoying to manage. It's frustrating to manage because as staff members come and go, you have to manually go in and add users and remove users as they leave the organization. Wouldn't it be wonderful if your printer could understand Active Directory? What if your printer communicated with Active Directory? And then all you do is on the printer configuration is you just add the security groups that are relevant. So you could add the print operator security group into that printer, and that's it. You don't have to add the users into the printer directly. You just add the security group print operator. And now that is a security group. And then the members of that printer operator are the members who can print. Very good example. So I could then add all of the users in here, keep them very, very nicely managed, all in here. And then automatically, because that printer has access to print operators, the security group, it'll then read all the members, and then those members can print. And of course, as staff members come and go, you manage all of that within Active Directory. So it makes it very, very easy. And that's just really a high level summary of what a security group is, right? And of course, you can create security groups for absolutely everything. A very good reason that you would have a security group would be, say, for a file server. You have a file server where staff can access a whole bunch of files and folders. It would be frustrating to have a folder called Finance and a folder called HR, and then manually change the permissions of those folders and add all the finance users into there. And then as finance members come and go, you have to go into that folder, right click, properties, security, and then add and remove them as they so come to. Frustrating. Wouldn't it be easier to go into here and actually create a new group, a new security group, which we're going to talk about in a little while, and then you just add all the finance team into that security group. We're going to call it finance and okay. And now I've got a finance security group. I then give it a relevant description. I then call it a security group. And now I just add the members of all of my finance team. And then on that folder, in that file server, all I do is I right click property security and I just add the security group finance instead of all of the members of the finance department. And then that way, when staff come and go, all I do is I just add the users into the finance group within Active Directory. And then by default, all of that will be populated and propagated into that folder on the file server. Okay, so that's what security groups do. They're great for IT administrators as well, for accessing specific IT related areas, a particular server. You may not want all IT members to access a particular server, so you create a security group just for them, just for others, etc., etc. So that's really high level on what a security group there is. And there, of course, these are built in. You don't have to use these. You can if you want to. You can create new ones if you want to. All right. Computers are computers on your network. So when you have a fleet of Windows computers, perhaps even a fleet of Mac computers, you want them to communicate to Active Directory. We can go and create new computers right in here. And then when you are binding that computer to Active Directory, essentially getting that computer to communicate and talk with Active Directory, because now you want that computer to be part of the AD, part of the domain itself. And you can manage all of those permissions within AD. You can create that computer and then you can manage it all that way. So it makes things very, very easy. Other things is the domain controller. So think about domain controllers as computers as well, but it's more for a place to store computers. All right. So this is where the domain controller itself is, right there. Okay. I would ignore that one. Manage services accounts. You can use this if you want to, but these are service accounts now. So this is instead of having a user account. So John Smith is a user. You could have a service account called security. And then people use that security account to log into specific areas. So it's like a user account, but it's a specific function or a process account or a service account is what it's listed here. And then of course, our standard users of the actual system itself. Now, user account these are all predefined. You'll see that there's actually security groups listed in here as well. But the only user account that's really been created is the very top one called administrator. And of course, we're going to now go and create a whole bunch of others. So that's really the high level structure of our AD. Okay, that's everything that you've got in there. These are all OUs, and you can go and create new OUs quite easily by right clicking in Home Demo. And I can now say new organizational unit right here, and I can create a brand new OU. Okay, so I can just call it let's say I'm in the US. Let's say you've got multiple companies, right? Multiple countries, your company. And then I could create another organizational unit, and I could call this users. And then I could call this other OU, computers. And then I could create another OU, and I could call this servers. All right. So now I've just created some OUs within a parent OU called USA. And of course, if your company has multiple sites, you can go and do that. Something else that is very helpful is perhaps under users, you could right click and say new OU, and you can say finance. And under users again, we could say new OU, and you could say IT. So now, when you're creating your users and managing all the users within Active Directory, you don't have to dump them all within users right here. You could actually put them into nice hierarchy folders or OUs like this. Now, of course, if you work in a small company, not a big deal. Perhaps you've only got 20, 30, 50 staff. You may be okay to keep them all in the one OU here. But if you want to, if you've got much larger business, especially if you're looking at different sites, different states, different countries, you want to go and structure your actual hierarchy, your schema, your AD location right here, accordingly to make it a lot easier for you to manage. So that's just a very brief overview around Active Directory. Future videos, we're going to go into a lot more detail, specifically around some of the key functionalities. So we're going to touch on that in a future video.